everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IoT for All Showcase series, the number one resource and publication for the Internet of Things. I'm your host, Ryan Chacon. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. On today's episode, we have Adam Daniel, the VP of Enterprise Solutions at Losant. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, Losant is a company that has an easy-to-use and powerful enterprise IoT platform to help teams quickly and securely build real-time connected IoT products and services for their customers. On this episode, we are talking about their smart environment solution. So to give you a little overview, Losant has their enterprise IoT platform, and the idea is to use that platform to provide the orchestration layer to facilitate better interaction between smart office systems and the people who work in them, allowing you to work with your existing and new spaces and integrate into the building management systems if you own or operate a building. They also make it easy to collect, visualize, and analyze data to create a smart office, smart building, or smart campus. So that's what we're focusing on today. We're going to showcase kind of what that is. Adam provides a lot of good context into the target audience of a solution like this, what the solution benefits are, how it's deployed, the ROI you kind of see from a solution like this. Just really showcase application of IoT in the real world for those of you who have interest in this space, work in this space, and maybe looking for something to create a better smart environment. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the IoT for All Showcase series. Welcome, Adam. Thanks for being here today and taking some time to chat with us.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So quickly, do you want to give a quick introduction about yourself and overview of kind of the company as well?
Sure. I'm Adam Daniel. I'm Vice President of Enterprise Solutions at Losant. Losant is an IoT application enablement platform. So we make it as easy as possible to build IoT solutions in the real world. As the enterprise solutions team, what we do is we actually build solutions on top of the platform. So we help our large enterprise customers realize, think of, realize, and actually implement and support their large solutions.
Fantastic. So this series is focused on showcasing different solutions that exist out in the market and have been deployed in the real world to just give a more accurate representation of what IoT can do for particular businesses, solving particular problems, that kind of thing. So today, I know we're going to talk about smart environment solution. Can you just quickly high level what that is, who the target audience is, what the overall intent of that solution is?
Sure, absolutely. Smart environments is a very large, broad topic. A lot of people think about smart offices, but it can be much more than an office. It can be a campus. It can be something like an airport. Any kind of government building, library, anything where people gather or there are occupants in the building. So that includes outdoor spaces as well. So that's why we kind of talk about smart environments versus just smart buildings or smart offices. And there's, we kind of talk about four major categories of initiatives within smart environments, and it's usually around operational efficiency or energy efficiency, usually
Right.
around cost reduction. There's also safety and security, and the last one is usually around occupant experience.
Mm.
Making it a better environment for your occupants in the building, whether that's employees or customers.
Fantastic. I've noticed there's been a big demand for solutions like this beforehand, but it grew even throughout the pandemic and kind of coming out of the pandemic. Companies looking for ways to improve the not only experience but the safety within buildings and in different kind of indoor environments.
Yeah, I mean, we saw even before COVID a shift towards open areas or common areas, basically like unassigned areas. So, like huddle rooms where you don't schedule occupancy, it's just first come, first serve. We also saw a huge trend towards hot desking,
Right.
where you're not assigned a desk and you just show up and grab one when you get there. So those things are still in play even after COVID, maybe even more so with not everybody coming back to the office all at once, maybe hot
Right.
desking even more. But yeah, I agree with COVID as well. Safety was a big thing. Making sure there aren't too many people in one given area, making sure people are
Right.
distancing properly.
So when it comes to the target audience of this solution, is it more of the building owners and managers? Is it basically whoever owns the space themselves, or how does this kind of targeted, and who out of our listeners should kind of focus the most on this kind of solution because it's more applicable to them?
Well, we're seeing all of the above, kind of.
Okay.
There are large property management companies that are interested in providing this as a service to their occupants. So they're putting effort and money into building out the smart environments for their occupants. But then we also have, customers that are the businesses themselves that are trying to provide a better, safer environment for their employees. Um, and we're even seeing companies like construction companies, get interested in what they can provide during the construction phase, and set up an infrastructure for either the
Mm.
property managers or the future occupants.
Absolutely. So what I want you to do now that you've kind of high leveled this for our audience, can you talk about an actual solution that's been deployed, or an actual application of this solution that's been deployed in a real world setting? You don't have to use any customer names if you don't want to, but just take us through the process of kind of once you've gotten through the ideation phase, what the deployment process has looked like, what the company is now seeing as the benefits of a solution like this within their business or their buildings.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll kind of start with kind of talk through a generic kind of implementation that we've done multiple times for customers. And it probably is the most common and easiest solution actually to get started with smart environments. And that's really understanding occupancy within your buildings. So we have a customer that already had an existing infrastructure in place for Wi-Fi access points, actually leveraging Aruba access points. So that's one key thing that I would say that if you're thinking about a solution, is get IT involved very, very early. There may be an existing infrastructure that you can leverage, like access points, Wi-Fi access points, Cisco, Aruba, all of those have some kind of foundational pieces where you could do indoor asset tracking, or communicate with wireless sensors like occupancy sensors. So um, usually starts there. Usually starts with what, like, kind of what I mentioned, the four major tenets of smart
Right.
environments. In this case, it was occupant experience
Hmm.
and also operational efficiency. So trying to understand where people are, to guide, basically finding a room to meet, or to understand where people are
Right.
throughout the day.
Absolutely. So, when it comes to deploying this successfully, what are some of the key things that need to be considered, need to be thought about? What I'm kind of getting at is, if we're a listener out there is watching or listening to this and saying, "Hey, this is very applicable to my business, something I could definitely benefit from," what should they be thinking about going into it, or be prepared to be kind of to come to me, maybe initial meeting with, or to start the process? What kind of advice do you have for those key considerations early on to help this deployment be successful?
Yeah. I would say make sure you've got key stakeholders involved from IT, from facilities, and a representation from the actual employees or users of the space as well. We have seen a couple solutions start off potentially a little rough, because a business area or some occupants of the building may not fully understand what it takes to deploy an infrastructure, or they may not understand the consequences of a side infrastructure when there's already something like Wi-Fi access points in place. So I would
Right.
definitely say get key stakeholders from facilities, IT,
Okay.
and users involved first.
Fantastic. Last kind of question I have before we wrap up on this is, what does a timeline for deployment look like? I obviously know it can vary depending on the environment itself, the solution that's being deployed, but just trying to from a give our audience some sense of an idea of how long it usually takes to going from initial conversation to pilot, and then from pilot, and beyond to scale.
Yeah, well, it depends on what's already in place.
Okay.
If you have a clean slate, then there's a lot that needs to be done from an infrastructure standpoint, making sure you
Okay.
have gateways in place to actually communicate with the sensors. So the lead time is a little bit more advanced. Now, the one thing I will say is um, depending on the kind of solution you want, if you need X, Y, coordinates within a building, then you need a pretty significant infrastructure to track that. If
Right.
all you're doing is seeing if a room is occupied, then the infrastructure is much less.
Hmm.
There's great pieces of hardware out there that can talk to a platform like ours, kind of out of the box. So, I mean, you can get data very, very quickly to start experimenting. We've done a couple of these now where we just start off with a small POC tracking
Okay.
maybe 4 or 5 huddle rooms, incorporates maybe a couple gateways, get that information into the platform, and you can immediately start seeing data within weeks of ideation.
Right.
From there, obviously it grows. You get
Sure.
facilities involved to help doing the installation and IT involved and everything, and it starts growing from there. But you can get data in very, very quickly, just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you kind of see this going? Just out of curiosity, have you seen maybe any new use cases or applications of this type of solution that maybe we haven't been as familiar with or spoken about? I mean, we've had guests that focus in this space on the podcast, for instance, and they're all kind of working in the same realm of the end solution. But where do you kind of see this going? What is the potential for this down the road as people start coming back to work and just buildings continue to be smarter?
Yeah, I think the interesting pieces are more of the behind the scenes orchestration. So getting data from an occupancy sensor and showing that on a dashboard is obviously the first step and where a lot of people currently are.
Sure.
Getting future analytics around that is obviously the next step, and that's where a lot of people are right now too. I think one of the interesting things though is kind of the orchestration and actions behind the scenes. And I'll give you a really quick example
Of
here.
course.
We worked with a customer that had occupancy sensors already in the conference rooms, and they already had smart lighting environments. So they had the ability to control lights. They had the ability to determine when people are in the rooms, and we put together a solution for them that looks at their calendar of the conference room, and 5 minutes before the meeting is up, it actually dims the lights to
Mm,
let the occupants know that the meeting's about over, to
right.
avoid that bottleneck of people waiting outside the door
Sure.
for the next room. So that's the interesting part is now that all of these things are connected, the orchestration and the workflow of the data and the information and all the actions that you can do to enhance an occupant's experience is what's really interesting to me.
Definitely. No, I totally agree with you. It's a very interesting space to kind of follow and see the progression of as new technologies come out, the application of the technologies, and then just the overall solutions that are being deployed. So I really appreciate your time. This has been a great kind of overview and kind of and detailed, even more detailed discussion around a very applicable solution to I think a lot of our listeners. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. For our audience who wants to maybe follow up, ask some questions, learn a bit more about the solutions you offer in this space, and probably other ones, obviously too. What's the
Mhm.
best way they can do that?
Yeah, definitely go to losant.com. You can also email us at hello@losant.com.
Okay,
On the website, there are a couple links that you can click on to talk to our architects, our solutions architects directly. So if you want to
fantastic,
talk to people that have been part of these deployments and are very knowledgeable about IoT, we can hook you up.
fantastic. Well, Adam, thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Really excited to get this out to our audience. I think we get a lot of value out of it. So thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the IoT Solution video series from us at IoT for All. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. If you have a potential solution or something in the space that you would love to showcase to our audience, please email me directly at ryan@iotforall.com. I'd be happy to discuss what it is that you have going on and find ways to get that out to our audience. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time.